There's a little-known trend that a handful of railroads partook in during the middle of passenger rail's decline in the late 50s. Thanks to the development from Spanish manufacturer Talgo, small, lightweight coaches were trialed on new passenger trains to look more sleek and to lighten the amount of wear on increasingly worse tracks, with notable examples including New Haven, New York Central, and the Boston and Maine. Not to be outdone by their northeastern neighbors, the Pennsylvania Railroad worked with their good bud, the Bud Company, to create a unique combination of these two types, in which they utilized an overall lightweight design with a low center of gravity, but were not articulated and were hauled by an existing engine. What resulted was the Keystone, a one-off set of 7 lightweight stainless steel coaches along with one head-end power car, a feature that was very advanced for its time, as the set was exclusively pulled by GG1 electric engines, and on rare occasions E44s, since while similar lightweight train sets often use their own one-off engine to match the coaches, let's face it, there's no replacing a GG1. Designated as the P85K and coming in at a length of 85 feet and a height of 11 foot 9 inches tall while holding 82 people per coach, these coaches utilize an unusual split level, or rather low level only concept, where passengers will walk down a set of stairs to a more spacious roof, all the trends of the late 50s, as the design of the cars utilized the lower region of the center of the car body to not only increase space, but also increase speed. Its low center of gravity along with a stressed steel tubular design, where the shell alone provided for the car body's strength instead of a heavy steel underframe, helped increase its travel time by 15%, as this ultimately lightened the load of an average train and allowed the lead engine to travel faster. Although, some will claim that Bud somewhat lied about their weight statistics for the Keystones, as most of the batteries and generators that would be found in normal passenger cars were found in the HEP car, which weighed 30,000 pounds more than a Keystone coach. But the Pennsy still insisted that the HEP car was included with the Keystone set, as even though it technically wasn't needed due to the excessive power provided by the overhead wires, the Pennsy had plans on running the set and possibly more of them on non-electrified routes. The 8-car set entered service on June 24, 1956, on 2 round trips between the Pensy's electrified New York to Washington, D.C. main line, namely the Morning Keystone, Midday Keystone, Evening Keystone, and Midnight Keystone, with regular parlor and dining cars often being mixed in with these new coaches. Even sleeper cars were included for the Midnight Keystone, where, due to the short distance of the route, passengers would arrive at their destination in the middle of the night. Although, one of the most common complaints from passengers about these coaches is their tendency to overcrowd, as the stairs that went in between the 2 levels were often bottlenecks for people deboarding the train. So Bud would soon design the Pioneer 3 coach, which is essentially a Keystone coach but remained on a single level. The prototype car, number 3880, was sometimes seen on a handful of Keystone trains, and it was initially advertised by Bud as great for intercity and short-distance passenger runs due to its light weight, but no sales of the coach were ever generated, not even from the Pennsy. So the same design was used for a new series of electric multiple units named Silverliners, which raised the Pioneer 3 coach and added the cab on each end, as they replaced the aging MP54 on Philadelphia-based electric commuter services. Meanwhile, the Keystones themselves continued to be used on regularly scheduled passenger trains on the Northeast Corridor, but the Pennsy and many other railroads were still losing the battle against airlines and automobiles in the short corridor, as the Pennsy was struggling to gain new riders, which discouraged future investments in passenger rail. By the time the New York Central merged with the Pennsy to create the infamous Penn Central, the railroad saw no use for the one-off brand of experimental rail cars, as they were stored in the Pensy's Altoona shops in 1968, were briefly renumbered as the Penn Central 3500 series, and were later transferred to Amtrak in 1971, and were briefly numbered in the 7900 series, although they were never used for revenue passenger service. From here on, the story of what happened to each individual car becomes blurry, but several photos and online forums helped piece together the history of these 8 coaches. Afterwards, Amtrak sold the Keystone set to the recently formed SEMTA Commuter Rail in Detroit for $80,000, as they were in need of extra coaches, but they too ultimately ended up never using them as they sat in storage again. So the set was sold again to Jack Haley, who moved the set from Michigan to Iowa for storage to create a proposed dinner train, with some plans even including the dinner train to go all the way from Chicago to Iowa. While in storage, 2 of the 4 coaches planned for the dinner train were unfortunately burned by vandals, but 2 Keystone coaches, number 9604 and 9605, as well as the Keystone's head and power car 9600, returned to Michigan in 1985 and ran in the Michigan Star Clipper dinner train between West Bloomfield and Wixom, where they ran behind an F7 in Erie, Lackawanna paint and several stainless steel passenger cars. When the dinner train ceased operations in 2009, coaches 9604 and 9605 were moved to Montreal in mid-April 2010, where the Michigan Airline Railway, or CoRail, sold them via Ozark Mountain Railcart to a Canadian mining operation, namely the Canac Railroad in St. Lawrence, Quebec, where they were expected to be used to ferry miners to and from the ArcelorMittal mining facility at Claremont, running from Port Cartier, Quebec. The company found the cars to be troublesome right from the beginning due to the seating, steps, ride quality, and lateral motion of the trucks, as the mining railroad replaced them with former NJT Comet 2 coaches. No photos of these two Keystones exist after their shipment from Canac, as it's currently unknown what the whereabouts of these Keystones currently are, although one of their last photos does leave a hint, as 9605 was spotted in 2012 with a sign reading AARX 9605, with AARX likely denoting the Association of American Railroads, but this does not narrow down its exact location. There's one claim stating that the rail cars are still in Canada, namely Jonquière, Quebec, due to their proximity with the mine railroad that they were supposed to go to. In the meantime, HEP car number 9600 can still be found in service today, as it's used for its intended purpose of providing HEP outside of electric territory, namely for the Dr. Wagon train hosted by Ferromex, where Class 1 provides various medical services all across Mexico once every few months, where it runs with several converted similar Pullman and Bud coaches. As for the rest of the Keystones, the remaining 5 coaches were stored out of service in Iowa and were primarily used for parts until all of them were allegedly scrapped in 2003. Talco, the rolling stock company that started the brief low center lightweight coach craze of the late 50s, found success in several other markets around the world, most notably on AVE high-speed train sets in Spain, and even saw some of their sets run in the US once again on the Amtrak Cascades. Nowadays, the Keystone name has been in use for Amtrak's Keystone service between New York and Harrisburg, while the Keystone is also the name of a Pennsylvania Railroad magazine company, which continues to recall countless stories and photos of the mighty Pennsy. As for the prototype Pioneer 3 coach that was developed from the Keystone, it will later be converted into a gas turbine-powered multiple unit that will be tested on the Long Island Railroad in the 60s before being retired and scrapped. Although the low-level lightweight design of the tubular Keystones never took off, it did help in the development of the much more iconic Silverliner series of EMUs that roam the home city of the Bud Company to this day. The Keystones would be the last purely PRR designed rolling stock to enter service, as well as one of the last new designs of passenger rail cars to be created by Bud before the formation of Amtrak, as a little-known hybrid that combined two wildly different trends during a forgotten era of passenger railroading. Thank you again for watching. Credit for all the photos used go to their respective photographers. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.